You're listening to the Board Game Snobs podcast, a ridiculous podcast with ridiculous hosts that discuss ridiculous things. And any mention of board games is purely coincidental. And so, without further ado, and with a heavy dollop of shame and embarrassment on my part, I give you the Board Game Snobs.
And welcome to the Board Game Snob podcast. This is Jerry, and with us, as always, is Gaby.
Hello! And
we have a special guest today, our third cousin twice removed, Jeff. Mr. Jeff Foxworthy. I'm claiming you as a relative, as a distant relative, Jeff.
I'm going to tell you something, Jerry. This is not helping your family tree. That's all I can tell you. This is you have acknowledged a disease branch on it. So.
Well, my family's from Oklahoma, so most of them are diseased anyways from various things. There's
no shame in it. It's just what it is. What it is.
Syphilis wreaks havoc on us all. A lot of people don't know that. Well, I guess those that are in the know about board gamings know that Jeff Foxworthy is the designer and creator of Relative Insanity, a rather fun party game that came out. Was it last year? The first edition, I believe, came out, was #1 on Amazon.
I think it was it 20 maybe? It came out, it's like right before COVID hit. So, because last year we were going to try to do a deal with some in-store stuff that fell through. But yeah, that was kind of a surprise, you know, but it's like sticking to what you know. You know, when I come up with a board game, it was to make people laugh. There wasn't no great world domination intellect going on there. It was it kind of came about in a weird way. We were at Thanksgiving, so I guess that was maybe 19, and at Thanksgiving we have like 30 people over every year at our farm, and it's aunts, uncles, grandmas, granddads, cousins, and so that evening, the kids, and I say kids, they were in their 20s, but they were sitting around the kitchen table and they were playing Cards Against Humanity. And, you know, they're all cracking up and all, but I walked over there and I said, y'all can't play this in the kitchen because, you know, if your grandmother hears some of this stuff, we're going to be calling 911, and this place is out in the country. She'll be dead before they get here. And so I thought, well, there's got to be a game that would make you laugh like that one, but you could play it with your aunt and uncle and, you know, or your grandma or whatever. So I got note cards in my whole life. I mean, I'm sitting here in my office. I got note cards everywhere. That's my life. And so I got note cards and I wrote down 500 punchlines, just things that sounded funny. And then I thought, all right, what does everybody have in common? Everybody's family's crazy. And so I wrote 100 setups about relatives, and they were simple. It was like right before we walked down the aisle, Daddy leaned over to me and whispered blank. And kind of the idea was you had 7 punchlines in your hand, and you just play the one you think is going to get the biggest laugh, and whoever gets, you know.
Daddy leaned over and said, "Let's wrestle."
Why not? Right there at the top of the aisle. And it's that, I mean, you can learn to play it in 10 minutes. It's the easiest, 10 seconds. It's the easiest game in the world. But I get people that stop me all the time and said, hey, we just went on family vacation. We took that game and we were laughing all night, or we had a girls' weekend and we played that game.
Relative Insanity, second generation.
There it is. And so it was so successful that that they were like, well, can you come up with 500 more? And I'm like, yeah, I'm sure I can. So this is volume 2. It's called Relative Insanity, the Second Generation.
So I was wondering, are all of these transcribed from handwritten Jeff Foxworthy scribbles to type?
They are.
Wow.
In fact, the first game, it sits right here in that little case, and got all the note cards from the first game is in there. And
Yeah.
dude, I mean, think about how many redneck jokes, because I still do the page a day calendars.
Oh, really?
Oh my God. Yeah. So there's probably easily 10,000 note cards written on here.
Okay.
And it's only sold on Amazon right now, correct? You said you hadn't gotten it into stores.
No, it's in the stores. Walmart carries it. In fact, Walmart's got an exclusive on the second generation game.
Okay.
So they love this game. So you can get it online or you can get it at Walmart.
Have you played Apples to Apples?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay, that's what it reminds me of. Apples to Apples, but more funny. Because
it's
Apples
more
to Apples
funny,
is
and
like
it's
nouns and a verb.
You're kind of pairing up ideas, and that was kind of the weird thing, because I wrote like the setups and the punchlines, but sometimes, like one of the punchlines in the first game was, I have mold in my crawl space, which makes me laugh because, it could mean different
We got
things.
you.
And
Oh,
so
yeah.
right before we walked down the aisle, Daddy leaned over to me and whispered, I have mold in my crawl space. That makes me laugh. But comics laugh at things other people don't laugh at. So
I think a lot of those
kind of
punchlines.
mix and match them. And, so it's not dirty like Cards Against Humanity, but you can make it, you can make it risque if you want to, but it's kind of one of them things where your mother goes like that instead of gets up and walks out of the room.
Yeah.
Right, when you have a dirty mind, everything's funny.
Absolutely.
And a lot of these punchlines are probably much funnier to people who are more to the South anyways. Mold in your crawl space and things of that nature. Not sure those Yankees know a lot about that.
So the way,
Do they not have mold in their crawl space?
I don't think so.
They got all that snow. They do. It melts and just sits there.
Yeah, but it still stings.
Yeah.
I don't know if you could tell. I've been to Minnesota.
Let's see. We have a few listeners in the north. Maybe they can. Do you have mold in your crawl space, dear listeners?
A lot of our listeners are in Australia. This game probably would translate well to Australians. And
Do you got mold in your crawl space?
There's $1 billion idea for you. Now, I don't know, Jeff, everybody knows you from you might be a redneck. Now, they have rednecks in Australia, but they call them something else. They're called bogans. You've heard of them, right?
I have heard of bogans.
Okay. Have you ever been to Australia?
I have been to Australia.
Okay, and you made it back, so that's important. So it's dangerous over there. The kangaroos will drown people. Did you know that? They get out in
They're like deer here. They're just all over the sides of the road, and somebody hits one, and the person behind them stops, picks it up, takes it home, and eats it.
Makes some jerky out of it.
They've got a very colorful flavor of rednecks over there.
Yes, and the recently I was reading about how the kangaroos will get out into like a body of water if something's chasing them, dogs or whatever, and try to drown it. Like apparently they'll drown whatever predators after them in a body of water. That's how I lost my first wife and a good hunting dog. German Shepherd.
Wait, was your wife a hunting dog by any chance?
Which one? All right, let Jerry be totally honest. Which one do you miss the most? Be totally honest.
Well, it just depends. Both were really good pointers, but neither. Anything I say, you can write down, Jeff. Feel free to use it whenever.
Trust me, I've already written down syphilis wreaks havoc on us all.
Really good. But you might be a bogan if that would be great in Australia.
Go it to the Australians.
That Australian market.
Yeah, why not? I like that.
It's basically Texans. Australia is.
That's kind of what it is. They're like Texans a little bit with a funny accent. But laughing is kind of that universal thing. Yeah, I remember, man, this is back like late 80s. And I was doing a show in Zany's in Nashville, Tennessee. And in the middle of the show, I see like people coming in the back. And I'm like, crap, that's Robert Plant from Led Zeppelin. And he and 2 or 3 other guys go up in the balcony. So after the show, I tell the manager of the club, I said, dude, that was Robert Plant. He goes, yeah, he's up in the balcony. So I went up to say hello to him. And he had heard me on the radio that morning telling redneck jokes. And he was like, he goes, dude, I'm from Birmingham, England. He said, and the guys in London always called us a bunch of bloody hicks. So I'm listening to these redneck jokes and I'm laughing me bloody ass off. And I'm like, Robert Plant likes redneck jokes? I mean, never saw that one coming, you know.
So is this, what do you had, I was looking, of course, obviously, I'm Wikipediaing Jeff Foxworthy preparing for the show. And you came out and the Blue Collar Tour was in like early 2000s.
Yeah.
And so you had that, you had your sitcom, you had a radio show. Were you in any movies? I knew the Blue Collar movies, but I didn't know if you did a movie.
Not really. I didn't get the lucky Larry the Cable Guy gig.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Ian Mater. I've done voiceovers in some lesser movies, but I've had I think like 7 or 8 TV shows. Probably the longest running was Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader?
Yeah.
But I like that because I could still be funny on it. You know, it was, I mean, hell, if you don't know the answer, they're second grade questions, you know, so you could kind of good naturedly, you know, kind of get on people a little bit.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, Larry, that Mater thing. But of course, everybody remembers Delta Farce. So, you know, I don't think he put one up. Yeah.
Well, I could have been in Delta Farce, but I read the script.
They had a script?
Yeah.
No, I remember because
Larry had his whole thing of movies. And so when we did the roast on him on Comedy Central, the best line was when Gary Busey said, the only time Larry's movies fly off the shelf is when a tornado hits a Walmart.
Well, I remember y'all's tour very vividly because being from Texas, we're Northeast Texas, Southeast Oklahoma. We're in Paris, Texas. At least I am. He's from Antlers, Oklahoma. But, you know, yeah, hearing folks that sounded like we do on the comedy tour and stuff. But of course, I always said, you know, Jeff has more of a, well, you're from Georgia, right?
Yeah.
And so it's a more elegant Southern accent to me. Of course, you know, it's like, I believe so. It's like my Georgian accent consists of, I do declare. That's how I do Georgian accent.
I say that all the time.
I've heard you 3 times so far. Yeah, it's like, Jeff, I wrote a joke.
Oh, Lord.
You can feel free to. I wrote a
what
joke.
The hell is going on here?
I'm sorry, Jeff.
I've never talked to a professional, famous comedian before. Here's my chance. Here's my chance for the big time. Carpe diem, they say.
Gaby, the buffet guy.
And I just come on here every week. This is the most fun I've had in a while. So.
Jeff might be able to get you a gig at Golden Corral.
So yeah, basically our thing is I come on here and try to make something happen, and Jerry just makes fun of how fat I am. That's our thing. That's what we do. But I'm working on it. A fat man is always on a diet. That's weird. Right. It's weird.
I do declare a fat man is a work in progress.
He is. Okay, so here's my joke, all right? I don't even know if it's a joke. It's more of an, okay, just listen.
It's a haiku.
It's a
redneck haiku.
So I was going to say, you know, Georgia is an elegant Southern. Whereas in our neck of the woods, there's always the guy in the news. Yeah, I saw some bright lights come down from the sky. Next thing I know, I'm being probed by a little green feller. You mean a Martian, sir? No, he's this little feller. His name's Bobby Joe Green. Little feller, big knuckles.
That's not your worst joke. It's not. I'm not going to hate on it. That's not bad. It's not.
No, it's reminds me. Larry the Cable Guy had a joke. He said, "I got bitten by a brown recluse, not the spider. It's this Puerto Rican guy lives next door to me that never comes out of his house."
Oh, I was going to say, is there, there's all types of, they have prop comics and observational comedy
and good comics.
And good comedy. Pun comics. Are pun comics a thing? That's the only thing I would be able to do.
What kind?
Puns.
You could be a pun comic. You might get booed off the stage, but that could be your whole thing.
Yeah. Well, so I was thinking, so I was thinking, Jeff, I mean, you're still you just come out with your special on, well, I don't know, just come out. It's 2022, your special on Netflix, The Good Old Days.
Yeah.
I was like, his mustache could have a spin-off show where it's a investigative journalist, and his line is always, the mustache's line is, I mustache you a question.
Let's see, that one died. That was not.
That's a pun.
That was
So puns aren't the way to go in comedy.
No, it's not. Generally, no.
See, I've been working hard on this material too.
Have you ever seen a pun club? Like, you see comedy clubs or jazz clubs, or I don't know that I've ever seen a place called the Pun Club.
Yeah, they're called hairdressers. They always have those puns like curl up and die.
Boom.
There you go.
Boom.
Or meat markets. Nice to meet you.
Yes. Any business that is a pun, I don't frequent. So that should tell you something. Puns are overrated.
You got
I'm sorry, God.
You got to. But see, a barbershop could say you got to have puns, hun.
No.
Okay.
You're embarrassing yourself in front of me. see, that's what's sad.
Iconic. The Netflix special said the iconic Jeff Foxworthy.
I don't even know what that means. The whole idea for Blue Collar, it was right after the Kings of Comedy started, and one of their first stops was Atlanta. And I was reading in the paper, it said that it was a show for the urban hip audience. Well, being a stand-up, I've been to all 50 states, just about every part of all 50 states. And I called Bill Engvall and I said, urban and hip leaves a lot of people out. I said, we should do a tour for everybody else. And he laughed and he said, what do you call it? And I said, you call it the Blue Collar Comedy Tour, because all of us got advice. Like when we went to New York or LA, I'd have guys in New York going, yo, Foxworthy, right? I don't want to hurt your freaking feelings and all, but you got to take some voice lessons and lose that stupid accent you got. And I was like, well, where I'm from, you have the stupid accent. It ain't me. So I was always stubborn about that. This is how I talk. I'm going to talk the way I talk. Now, hopefully I can talk about stuff like the redneck thing was a way for people to remember me. But I think most of my stuff is about, like family and kids and wives and things like that, which go over everywhere. But hell, rednecks are everywhere. That's how that kind of spread. I was like, you get 20 minutes outside of Chicago, you're covered up in them. They're all over northern. And so that was, I guess, what made that work. But I always tell young comics, I'm like, talk about what you know. Don't try to be somebody else. Don't try to be another comic. Talk about what you know.
That Kings of Comedy tour was, I remember that with Steve Harvey. I bought one of those suits with the 8 buttons after that came out.
I could see you in that, Jerry.
It was nice.
What color?
It was silver. It was like one of those silver.
Sure, and because there's so many places to wear an 8-button silver suit.
Well, basically prom. And I mean, you could wear it wherever you want. I mean, you can wear a suit wherever you want to.
You can wear it to Walmart if you want.
It's just, but those suits were designed for people at least 6 foot tall, and I'm a whopping 5'9". So it looked more like
the 8th button's at the top of your shoes.
It looked like a formal muumuu. It was just drug the ground. So yeah, it was
But
not.
it seems like if you wore it to like Golden Corral, you would be the talk of the whole place the whole time you were there.
They'll let you go up to that ham station as much as you want. And we are literally like across the street from a Golden. That's not Golden Corral. What is this over here? Is that Best Western?
No,
Western
Golden,
Sizzlers.
No, it used to be Western Sizzler. Now it's Golden Corral.
They bought them out because everybody knows Golden Corral is taking over slowly. Any place that you can go where there's a Golden Corral. I don't know if that's a big thing in the North, but down here in the South, Golden Corral is like the mafia. They just buy up locations and set up.
Yeah. Do you know when I started doing their commercials years ago, Larry the Cable Guy came up to me at a show and he goes, "Dude, do they give you like discount cards or anything like as part of your deal?" And I'm like, "You're worth $1 billion and you're asking me for Golden Corral discount cards."
That's how they keep. That's how you keep it, right?
Larry's got
Be
that.
cheap.
Larry's got that tomato money. He don't need that. My kids listen to all that
exactly.
mess. I'm tired of that. Yeah. He's got the voice acting.
So did y'all have the "you might be a redneck"? Here's your sign and get her done. Like, I mean, those are still being said in these parts to this day. Was that something that just developed out of y'all's material, or was that like you were having that helped you like identify with you?
I think it helped people remember you, because I mean, if you think about, and I didn't think about it at the time, but the redneck jokes, they're one-liners.
Mm-hmm.
So they're easy to remember. They're easy to retell. You can go to the break room at work and get a laugh just by remembering a sentence. But they kind of came about. I mean, I talk like this. I drive a truck. I'm in comedy. I'm wearing boots and jeans and talking about I wish I could go deer hunting, but I'm on the road doing this. And so I'd always get it. I would, Foxworthy, you're nothing but an old redneck from Georgia. And so, and I heard that all the time. And then one time I was in Detroit. I was outside Detroit. It was a town called Livonia. It was like metropolitan Detroit. And we were playing at this club. And after the show, they were kidding me about being a redneck because I was like, crap, I wish I was deer hunting this week. It's the rut. And they were kidding me about being a redneck. And I said, the club we were playing in was attached to a bowling alley that had valet parking. And I said, if y'all don't think you have rednecks in Michigan, go look out the window. People are valet parking at the bowling alley. And I went back to the hotel that night and I'm like, hell, I know what I am. But apparently a lot of people don't. I wrote 10 ways to tell you might be a redneck. I went back the next night, not thinking, oh, it's going to be a hook or a book. I was just trying to make people laugh. And not only were people laughing, they were pointing at each other, within the place. And I'm like, okay, well, if I can write 10, can I write 20? If I write 20, can I write 100? And that's kind of how the whole thing started.
Relatable. What do you tip a valet at the bowling alley? A can of snuff? what goes there?
Just the fact that the people thought that bowling alley is so nice. They've got valet parking.
They've got the newest shoes.
That's where the snob bowlers go.
Oh, Jerry, big bowler. Big bowler.
Well, of course.
Of
If
course.
you don't bowl and you're in the South, there's something wrong with you.
Oh, yeah. They got the nicest shoes at that bowling alley.
They do.
Now, who's from Southeast Oklahoma?
That's me. I live in Antlers, Oklahoma, the so-called deer capital of the world, which is
with a place named Antlers.
It's got to be good.
We're not far from.
One of my hobbies is I go all over the place looking for arrowheads. Well, I go to Southwest Arkansas looking for arrowheads, and so it's probably not too far.
Like around the Hot Springs area.
Not that big. It's not near that big. Yeah. But I'm thinking that's where the Jerry life story happened, not far from there.
It is. The southeastern Oklahoma area where I'm at now is inundated with Texans because it's a very poor part of Oklahoma, and all the Texans lease the hunting land. So everybody comes up there and hunts, and after they get cleared out all the deer, we go in and kill all the hogs. And so that's typically how that goes. But yeah, that whole area right now, that's all it is deer hunting. Which that you bring that up, that is actually where I first remember seeing you, because my father was a avid deer hunter, and Army drill sergeant, nothing was funny to him except he had a VHS tape of what was it? The Incomplete Deer Hunter?
The Incomplete Deer Hunter.
That's yes, of you and several others, and it being this comedy setup of deer hunting, and he wore that out. And he would rise from the grave if he knew I was talking to Jeff Foxworthy, the Incomplete Deer Hunter. That was hilarious. Back was that 95 that came out?
That was early. Well, maybe a little bit, maybe like 97 or 8. I have a farm that's near Columbus, Georgia, where Realtree Camouflage started, and I would go on deer hunts with them. And then, but I thought, there's all these people making deer hunting videos, but when you're sitting around a hunting camp, a lot of it's, about the camaraderie and the relationship, and nobody was doing anything funny about it. So I said to them, hey, if I make these videos, will y'all sell them? And Jerry, those crazy things, they were selling like 1 million. We did 3 of them. I think they all sold over 1 million copies. Yeah, it was crazy.
Yes, I remember watching them. My dad, there is a skit where you were explaining to your wife why deer meat was so expensive and why it's so important. You were listing everything it costs to deer hunt. The lease costs X amount, the 4-wheeler costs X amount. And at the end, you're like, well, deer meat's like $300 a pound, and of course, this is the best meat for your family.
And she didn't appreciate. it. I'm like, this is better than sirloin steak. This is better than any meat you can buy, because it's $300 a pound, and you don't appreciate it. Yeah.
I don't hunt myself, but I've been with a few of my friends.
But you've benefited from hunting, obviously.
Well, of course, I eat it. I will eat it nonstop. Beef, deer jerky is one of my favorites. But yeah, all my buddies, they just go easy.
That's all right. Go ahead.
They just go and they sit in them stands and they just drink. I'm like, oh, okay, I see what it's about. I'm like, by the time you see a deer, how do you see straight to shoot it?
Well, now I bow hunt. You can't sit up there and drink and bow hunt.
You're showing your ignorance, Gaby.
I thought hunting was with a gun. Bow hunting. Now I'm not Nathaniel Hawkeye. No, that was still with a long rifle. Musket shooting. Do you ever do the musket shooting one?
You mean black powder?
Yeah. Whatever. Sure.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I have done that, but for the last like 20 years, I've been just exclusively with a bow.
So. Really? Why so?
Because it's the skill, Gaby.
It's the hardest way to do it. And so, but when you pull it off, you feel like you've done something. So, I mean, it's one thing to shoot one at 400 yards, it's another thing to shoot one at 12 yards. So,
yeah, okay. More Robin Hood like. Do you lick the feather before you stick it in the bow?
Well, we don't take their money and give it to the
You could share the deer jerky with some folks, and then you'd be the Robin Hood.
I do. Not a one comes off my farm somebody doesn't eat it. So I got to deal with a Hunters for the Hungry program, and we process them all. And
Look, you're the Robin Hood of bow hunting. See?
Yeah.
John Deere hunting. There you go. There's a joke there somewhere.
There's really not, Gaby. There's really not.
I'm making notes.
We've all
note to self. There's not a joke in the John Deere hunting.
Oh. Jeff's like, well, I think my time's about up here, fellas.
I want to ask y'all. Y'all got all these games behind you. Mm-hmm. What kind of board games are you into?
Oh, well, we are a little bit of everything. As you've probably have found out, that board gamers are an odd group of people. If you've ever had any interaction with actual people who board game as a hobby. I guess the nerd culture.
It's a niche,
But talking to somebody that has spent the last 4 decades with comedians, I'll put my odd people up against your odd people.
board gaming is a very niche, but they're avid. And so it's like once you get into it, have you played Catan?
I have seen Catan, but I haven't played Catan.
That's one of like gateway games. Like you play that and you realize.
So you start off playing Catan, and the next thing you know, you're on heroin.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's the gateway type deal.
That's how it is.
Yeah.
That's how it is. You start buying, these games can do this and that. And you got games where you got little miniatures, you can fight each other, or you got trading in the Mediterranean, and you're buying goods and gathering goods and using those goods to purchase things on these cards. And it's just it really is a massive field that is very hard to explain. But yeah, as you can see, and these are just mine. He's got his at his house, so it's a lot.
It's not something there's an untapped market. You might be a board gamer if. There you go. You can get on that. You might be a board
Gaby,
gamer.
I'm gonna give you that.
Okay.
I'm gonna give you that. I'm giving
Might
you
be a board
Jerry's
game.
idea. There's your fortune
How
right
can I
there.
squeeze in John Deere hunting here something?
That the hunting
Not gonna
won't
work.
fly.
Dadgummit.
Put a line through that.
Strike that one out. Yeah, so we got it's just literally any type of. There's winemaking games where you're pretending to run a winery. You're taking lots of them as just area control, like Risk. You're fighting for areas, but with way more complex rules. They take these games and make them much more complicated. That's basically board gaming.
Yeah. Okay.
Worker placement.
And then you've got games where just they're trying to make you laugh.
Right.
So
Exactly.
mine's pretty simple.
Yeah, yours falls into the party game category.
Oh, it does.
Yes,
Okay.
sir. Yours would definitely be a party game.
Okay.
You get
Is
together in
that
a large group of folks.
Is that like, is in the gaming community, is there a snobbery and y'all look down and go, well, that ain't nothing but a party.
Those are called Euro gamers. We don't have
Yeah.
many around here.
And that's the thing, because some of these very complex games started in Germany. In fact, as of right now, there's a convention in Essen called Essen Spiel, where it's a massive convention where they're peddling these games and to content creators, people that like to play them, all this.
You know
type
how
of thing.
them Germans are.
And so
They're big on world domination. We know that from history. So
they've taken over the board gaming world.
I've got that Discovery Channel. I know all about that Luftwaffe.
Isn't that what you use in the shower to scrub your back? Mm-hmm. Is that what it is?
You keep working on it. Keep going. You're almost there. You're almost there.
You're like almost out of the camera. Can you like be conscious of where the camera?
The more that you make bad jokes, the more I'm
You're like,
getting
you're
slow.
easy
He's talking to me, Jeff. The more bad puns
not
he
you.
makes,
No, you're good.
I'm slowly getting away from him.
Like,
so the
I'm pretty
further
soon it's just going
myself
to be
from
the Gaby and Jeff show.
yeah,
Jerry's gone.
Well, if you keep making these dumb puns, that's what it's going to end up being. You're killing us.
But yeah, no, party games are a thing unto their own. Some people can be snobbish about it, but balanced, reasonable folks like ourselves, when you have a large group of people together, generally I'd say in a crowd of more than 6, oftentimes calls for a party style game. That's where everybody can sit around and you could deal out all these things, and 10, 12, 15, whatever could partake in the one singular game that's all going on.
But anyways, well, Jeff, it's been a pleasure talking with you. I know we're eating up all your time.
Do you have?
no, but at least say something nice about the game so people will go buy it.
It's a great game.
I was going to say, I compared it to apples. My family enjoys apples to apples. My wife loves it. Gina, who doesn't believe we're talking to you today, this is I would play this over apples to apples any day, and that's an easy, straightforward. The main thing is with my family is a low rules, The simple rule set.
An idiot could play it. Put that on the box. Gaby says better than apples, which is obvious. Like you don't know what apples are.
Honest to God, you deal out the cards. Everybody gets 7, and you replenish them as you play them. And one person reads the setup, and everybody throws down. You can learn to play it in 10 seconds. Yeah. There's no complicated rules here. So, and you're going to have some big laughs while you're playing it. So,
it will definitely get it just came into my house yesterday. It just made it on the wire. But I cracked it open. I played a few rounds with my family, and they already enjoy it. So
they're humorless.
Right, so Gaby, I want to know this: are you going to wrap it back up and give it to somebody for Christmas?
If I can find a cellophane, however you find those, the shrink wrap machine.
Yeah,
I'll say here you go, and I'll make a profit of it too because I got sent this one for free.
Yeah,
you could sign Jeff's name to it. Say
it's already on there.
Jeff's. We know
it's
Jeff.
Already on there.
Oh wow!
Like man, this is a $20 game. I'll give it to you for $10.
Yeah.
repurposed games.
No, but we appreciate it very much. Do you have several of these type shows lined up?
No, you guys. So it's like whenever it comes out, I think I have like y'all and Jimmy Fallon, which in my world they're level with each other.
I got some jokes I could write for Jimmy.
And they'd be funnier.
But I heard how funny y'all were, and I'm like, all right, I want to do that one.
I'm pretty sure they just listened to our accents, and they thought Jeff will be able to understand these guys.
He will fit right in.
Yes.
I was
a board game snob. So
yeah, I'm speechless. That's how I am. I can't even talk.
Yeah, you're like the only Jeff I like. No. I have a thing with Jeffs. Like there are no really Jeffs you think of all the Jeffs in the world, they're all horrible people.
Maybe you're just
Dahmer,
a mean person.
Jeffrey Dahmer.
Oh yeah.
Jeff Goldblum's overrated.
What about Jeff Bridges is pretty cool.
I like Jeff Bridges. I take that back.
I think maybe it's just your personal life, the Jeffs you know.
Jeff Bridges, Jeff Foxworthy. I'll tell you what I don't like is the Jeffs that spell their name with a G.
Oh, I don't like them either. I think they're a bunch of snobby little punch faces. And Gaby, I got to point out something. You're wearing you're wearing a shirt that says Snobs on it, but it's a T-shirt.
Yeah.
Can you really be a snob and wear a T-shirt?
Well, I was going to get it made into a tuxedo looking shirt, like they used to wear. That way,
go with fancy. Jerry Silver suit.
Yeah, be looking real fancy.
We'll send you one, Jeff. That way you can wear it next time you do your Netflix special.
Now, it's
Jeff, got an armadillo on it and everything.
If you can get on Jimmy Fallon's show and talk about the Board Game Snobs podcast, boy howdy, you might make our numbers.
I might could squeeze that in.
You might make our numbers double from at least 10 to 20. It would be fantastic.
All right. Well, all 10 people that are out there watching, I know it's below your normal line of game that you get because you're snobs or you wouldn't be listening to this show.
Yeah.
But go buy it for your uncle or something for Christmas. And so,
or your sister.
My 10 board game, if I sell 10 more, I think I could buy my grandson a Matchbox car out of that. So please go get it.
Well, let's see, where are we at here? Time. I cannot minimize when you're recording. I'm not.
Jeff, if you ever want to come back on the show, just to come on to vent about any issues that you have, or just to have a session where,
or if you drive some humorous puns, I'll refill your tank.
Right. Bounce some ideas off of us. We could
Gaby,
be your think tank.
Look, I did the first Redneck Page a Day calendar in 1990. And I just finished the one for 2023.
Good grief.
So, and every year I'm like, there cannot be 365 more of these, but there is. Why don't you start a Page a Day pun calendar?
You could do something with your life there, Gaby.
Page day pun calendar. Something.
He wrote that right below John Deere hunting.
Deer hunting. Yeah, got it. All right, I got it.
They'll never get going.
But you don't get 10% neither because you give this to me 100%.
I wish it did. Yeah. No, you get the whole thing. It's yours. Run free, run wild.
Done and done. Well, the game is Relative Insanity, second generation. Jeff Foxworthy has graced us with his presence. We appreciate that very much. And for the non-believers, look, it's on video.
Yeah, there you go.
They can actually see your face. Yeah, we generally don't do this live or on Zoom, so this is a special occasion.
We try not to show our faces, but it's okay.
People would just assume that this Jeff Foxworthy was just Gaby doing an impersonation of Jeff Foxworthy. If it
Let
wasn't.
me hear the impersonation, Gaby.
You might be a redneck if
That's a terrible.
you see a sign that says, dadgummit.
You don't even know his jokes. It's terrible. You're embarrassing.
Dadgummit. Something about don't take crack and it makes you pull up your pants. Something like that.
If I keep drinking any more of this Evan Williams, I'm going to do my Ron White
If
impersonation.
you see a sign that says "Say no to crack," and it reminds you to pull your jeans up, you might be a redneck.
Say no to crack. Yeah, Jerry's doing his best Ron White impression.
Ron
over here,
White's my spirit animal.
We need to get out of here before
Ron White is the most naturally funny human being I've ever known in my life.
People say that of me as well. R.I.P. Ron White. R.I.P.
All right, Jeff. Well, thank you very much. We'll end the show while it's not a complete and utter disgrace on my part.
Oh, you're way too late for that, Bobby. Way too late for that.
Goodness. Okay.
Well, we'll see you at the reunion, Jeff. And I won't.
That's better, yeah.
I won't. I'm not going to fault you for never getting an invite to Thanksgiving. That's fine. I understand our families have grown apart over the years. But, anytime, next time you're in the area looking for arrowheads, if you want to slide on over to Oklahoma.
Now, do you have any over there where you grew up? You've got to.
We're in Choctaw Nation area. And actually, I have a card. I'm actually 1/128th Choctaw, so I can pick up arrowheads if I find them. So I could be your guide, your pale-faced guide in the Choctaw region if you ever come over here.
You got it.
We could adopt you into the tribe.
All right. I like that because I'm a big fan of the Native Americans. I love to celebrate Columbus Day when he came over here and discovered America and the 100 million people that were already living here. So,
Look, I found it. Excuse me, sir. We were here first.
we were already here. I think I might go next weekend and discover New York City. So,
it's the same thing. I discovered it. Yeah.
You should post about how you just discovered this new show. And you just discovered Jimmy Fallon.
You discovered Board Game
be
Snobs.
My favorite new podcast right here.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what?
Say that.
Here's another idea for your next board game. It just dawned
we need to
on
go
me.
while we're ahead, Jerry.
It just dawned on me. This is for free.
Okay.
There is not one deer hunting board game out there, and it's desperately needed. They just released a fly fishing one not a while back. That's pretty good. But deer hunting has not been represented in the board game community. We need a Jeff Foxworthy, the Incomplete Deer Hunter, the board game. I don't know what it would be.
And when you sell it, all it will cost you is a little dough.
There it is. That's why we pay him the big money. Right there, Jeff.
Look at him.
There's your tag.
Now he's speechless, befuddled.
He's speechless.
Well, that's going to do it for this episode of the Board Game Snobs. This has been a great pleasure to talk to Mr. Jeff Foxworthy. The iconic Jeff Foxworthy. Thank you for coming on and pick up again, Relative Insanity, second generation. Look at me plugging away.
At your neighborhood Walmart. / they don't do it in Target because I think
that's too fancy.
Jeff
too fancy.
Jeff doesn't. They don't. I know what it's like to be banned from Target. Jeff, don't.
Yeah. I've been banned from a lot of places.
And
so Walmart fits me just fine.
Okay. Target's kind of more upset.
A little more
fancy.
snobbery.
Those Jeffs with the G shop at Target.
That's where you wear your silver suit to, is Target.
That's that Steve Harvey. Those Jeffs with the G shop at Target.
All right, well, again, see, I'm trying to end this while we're ahead before it gets ruined. And that's going to do it. Ending now.
Thank you for tolerating this episode of the Board Game Snobs. Stay classy.